Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Pain to Profits. I'm your host, Samson Jagoras, and every single week we bring on entrepreneurs to unpack the knowledge, wisdom, and lessons that they have learned along the way going from pain to profits. And today I got my friend Greg Roeder with Waypoint, as well as Greg Roeder Luxury Real Estate. This dude's been in the game of real estate for an incredibly long time. He's lived through the highs and the lows, the goods and the bads of the market, and I'm incredibly excited to bring him on here today to share his story on how he did it so that you guys can learn. So Greg, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. So why don't you kick it off for everybody? Tell a little bit about who you are and what you do and why the heck that matters.
Yeah, I've been doing this since 2005. So moved to Colorado from Iowa, 2005, and feels like yesterday. I mean, it feels like this just happened. And here we are, 18 years later, right?
Yeah, we're not young chickens anymore.
We're not young chickens anymore. I wanted to get into real estate. From a young age, everybody else in my family is a doctor, a dentist, a veterinarian. I mean, like every single person.
Wow.
So that wasn't my path. I wanted to get into real estate. I came out here. I got coached by a good family friend who he is someone he's developed casinos. He's developed a bunch of real estate in the Midwest. I just always thought, this guy, that's me. And so taking his advice, I moved out here. I got into the title business. I got with a title company. He said, hey, look, you're going to learn. It's going to be boring, but you're going to learn. You're going to see what agents do to be successful and what they do to not be successful. So I said, great. And that's what I did. He said, 2 years. Give it 2 years. I came out here. I moved to Fort Collins. And why Fort Collins? My sister was going to vet school in Fort Collins at the time. So came out, thought it was great, thought it was amazing. So came out and got the job at the title company and lasted a year. I couldn't make two.
Was it boring? Is that what the issue was?
Really boring.
Yeah.
It was really boring. It was, for me, it just wasn't. It wasn't.
Yeah, you're
for
just
me.
doing a lot of back office work and like project managing and dates and deadlines and checking boxes and
a lot of that stuff. I was also seeing these people out doing what I wanted to be doing.
right. And you're like, I could do it better than this dude.
And I don't know if I thought that at the time. But I thought I want to be doing that.
Yeah.
I thought I want to be doing that and not this. I thought like it was 6 inches in front of me the entire time. If what you want is 6 inches in front of you at all times, then how can you just sit back and do something else every day? I don't know that I've ever been very employable, honestly. And I lasted a year, so I jumped in after a year, and then
and it's such a great point though. Like that's the difference between those who quit or never get started is you just gotta jump. Like nobody's going to give you permission. Yeah, you had a mentor who's guiding you in the right direction, but at a certain point, you just got to pull yourself up and make the decision to take the entrepreneurial leap.
You do.
Yep.
You do just have to jump in, and let's talk about mentors for a second too. I think people think, maybe a lot of younger people I know, that, hey, I have to have a mentor and I'm going to meet with them and talk to them every day and, or every week or every month. Or look, I had maybe 2 short conversations with this mentor. I didn't really bother him after that. It just set me on a path. You have to go. It's not up to him. It's up to you. It's not up to her. It's up to you. You just need to go. And I think I realized that, and I just went.
Yeah, I love that. If you've listened to the show long enough, you'll hear me say that there's like 5 ways that we get into entrepreneurship. 1, we're born into a family business. Mm-hmm. 2, we spend 7 to 10 years working in an industry. 3, we go bang our head against the wall. 4, we find a mentor. Or 5, some combination of all of those things. But I think there's definitely a gross misconception about what a mentor is. The mentor is not there to seek you out and chase you down. They're there like a Yoda on the journey. You go find them, you get what you need, and then you go back on the journey. And then you maybe come to new Yodas, right? New mentors along the way as you achieve new levels of success. And you joined the group early on in your career, right? Which, for those of you who aren't from Northern Colorado, as an independently owned brokerage house and weren't like a national brand, they were for a really long time the dominant player here in Northern Colorado. And there's tons and tons of real estate investors. It's probably one of the number one ways that people became independently wealthy here in Northern Colorado is by way of real estate. And a lot of them, the ones that I know, came out of that shop, the group real estate. What made you go there? Why not go with a different shop? And how was that like pretty pivotal in your career?
Yeah, it was one of the best, is one of the best. I mean, probably the best ever. I mean, just one of the best companies ever, period.
Yeah.
Larry Kendall, a legend.
Yeah, he is.
And so many people there that are just phenomenal. So, having the opportunity to join that group early on, learn from those people, go through ninja selling, learning those things, and really just observing
Right.
how it's done from a lot of the people that were there was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. I was really drawn to that, and really lucky in hindsight to be able to have that opportunity, because I was not a producer. I was
Right.
not somebody. I was just getting going.
Yeah.
And for them to open, welcome me with open arms and access to all of those systems and that assistance and that help, it was incredible.
Were you always an entrepreneur, like as a kid growing up? Because you said you were black sheep's probably not the right word, but you were the odd man out when everybody else was like on the path to go to school and go to med school.
Yeah.
Or were you always like the kid hustling candy bars and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot there. Growing
Let's
up,
go. I want to unpack that.
I was never. I just was never like the other, like my siblings. They were so much smarter than me in school. I mean, it really wasn't even close. They were a universe ahead of me.
Yeah.
I felt like I had to try a lot harder to get even in the neighborhood of grades that they would get effortlessly. So, young age, baseball cards. It was baseball cards. It was getting baseball cards, selling baseball cards. I remember setting up tables in front of our house, and putting little stickers with like $2, $3, $1 on the baseball cards, and then just trying to out there hustle, trying to get people to stop by, going over to neighbors' house, other kids who had baseball cards, trying to get them to trade with me, trying to convince them, putting deal packages together. I'll give you Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire. They're going to give me
the Ken Griffey Jr. card.
Yeah, plus 6 other. Always trying to work in my favor, probably a little bit. I didn't understand the win-win scenario maybe at that age, like I did later on. Baseball cards, and then kind of going forward. Going forward to college years. First summer back from college, my parents had a relationship with a family that owned a door factory in our Iowa town, probably the prominent employer, maybe the largest employer in that town. And so I had the opportunity to do an internship there. At the time, it was the highest dollar per hour job you could find anywhere. I mean, it wasn't even close. It was like double the next best option.
Oh, wow.
So, but this was an unair conditioned door factory. We were slapping together inexpensive doors. I mean, like 1,300 doors a day.
Dang.
So I did that for a whole summer. Next summer back, I didn't want to do that again. And I remember my parents, maybe my dad specifically, being a little disappointed. I said, I'm not.
It's a good job, Greg. Why aren't you going to go do that hard work?
Right.
You get twice the labor hour.
Hey, they want safety. They want to learn the hard work. All these things. I get it. I understand why he thought that, because what I was doing instead, I was like, I want to sell Cutco knives.
Let's go.
He said, Cutco knives. Well, I explained it to him, and that didn't help. I'm going to call people. And this is back before the internet. I'm going to call people. I'm going to break open the yellow pages, because that's what it was in those days. And Red Bull had just come out. I had my Red Bull. I had the yellow pages, and I'm calling everybody in the phone book.
And you're just having the time of your life.
Can I just come to your house and sell you knives?
The greatest knife on the planet.
The greatest knife on the planet. I mean, the whole presentation, and there was a lot of cheesy stuff. You're like clinging the knife on asking them, you know what note this is? They're like, no, what are you talking about? What musical note? And they say, I don't know what musical note. And I said, that's a B sharp, because Cutco will always be sharp. Like this.
Did they teach you this pitch?
They teach you this pitch.
That's incredible.
It is, and it's really, looking back, it's funny, and you're cutting through the penny with the super shears. I mean, you're sawing through the rope.
Yeah, and look at it; it's still sharp. I remember those pitches.
With the steak knife, I mean, you're doing all the things.
I remember my grandma just melted and just bought Cutco on the spot.
Oh, and I mean, I was all over it. My big driver at the time was I did not want to go back to the door factory.
Right.
I mean, that was maybe literally my only motivation at the time was I wanted to make money. I did. I mean, and there was really nice commission fees in there, but I didn't want to go back to the door factory. So, like, whatever you have to do, I was calling everybody. And I really leaned on friends and family, and we all played sports together growing up. So, my good friend Ian, and I remember he lived out in this neighborhood called Oakland Acres, had this golf course, this nice house, and I was like Trudy, Ian's mom, she cooks a lot. She's going to want Cutco knives.
And she's got the money, probably.
Got
Live
the
on a
money.
golf course? Come on.
Got the money. So I call. But Trudy doesn't answer. Remember, no cell phones. Dial tones. I call. Al, his dad answers. No, I don't want any knives. Yeah, I don't know if I can. I probably can't swear on
you
this.
don't want any damn knives.
Yeah, he didn't say that eloquently. He was, I don't want any damn knives. You know, and basically like just hangs up on me. Not basically, he did.
Yeah.
I don't want any knives. Hangs up the phone. I call right back, and this time Trudy answers.
Oh yeah.
I was like 50-50 when you call. Is it going to be Al? Is it going to be Trudy? I might have waited like a beat. I call back. Trudy answers. I set up the appointment.
Let's
I come
go.
out there, and as I am selling Trudy knives, closing the deal, Al walks by, like, "What are you doing here? You know, what do you?" And he's he's upset that I came, but that is
What's it look like, Al? I'm selling Trudy some knives.
Yeah, I know. I remember just how he was upset that I was even there, and I was unfazed. I went, I sold.
But you
the
loved
knives.
it. Yeah, you got a little bit of excitement out of it.
Yeah.
Would you say it's important for entrepreneurs or people who want to be entrepreneurs to get some experience in sales? I think it's so important.
It's almost like sales has become a bad word. I think, do you feel that way?
100%.
And I think it is one of the most, if not the most important baseline skill you can have. I mean, there's just, self-awareness. There's so many things tied into this, but that skill of sales, how to sell, how to, people think of it and they think of, all the bad things, all of the movies we saw maybe growing up, Glenn Carey, Glenn Ross, on down the line, right? That's what they think of. So it's like, it's a bad word to so many people, but it is such a fundamental skill. Yeah. And it's, really, I think, reframing that context is important. It is, how can you educate? How can you be helpful? How can you go to bat for somebody? How can you solve a need? I mean, really solve a need and make their lives better, make their lives easier. There's so many ways that it could be framed that it generally doesn't seem to be framed, but absolutely, in my opinion, like the most important skill that you can have.
Yeah, I mean, it can go both ways too. I've seen people that are really good at sales and terrible at execution and service on the back end.
Sure.
But having worked with consulting a lot of businesses, helping people prepare to sell their business, to go to the market, selling businesses, the thing I see more than not is they're really good at like the product and the process, and they're not so good at getting sustainable deal flow and new revenue.
Right.
And so they have this real inconsistency, kind of wave tops of revenue. And so it's so crucial, especially if you're starting from scratch. So if you're uncomfortable selling, you're listening to this podcast thinking about starting something up, man, you need to find a good partner who can sell. Not to deter you from doing it, but you need to find somebody who wakes up and goes to sleep thinking about how they're going to crush new business,
I agree. And then, also thinking about ways, how can I do this differently? How can I always say, how can you create your own game? Whatever someone listening to this is looking to do, how do you create your own game? What do I mean by that? Let's Cutco knives. Let's talk about that again for a second.
Good example.
I Red Bull, phone book, calling people. This is taking a lot of time. And by the way, I'm getting a lot of rejection and all of these things. Not that I minded, but I was pushing through, but I knew it wasn't the most efficient way. So changed my strategy, started talking to parents in our network of friends and sports, and they had, my friends had other siblings. They were a year younger than us, 2 years younger than us. They were graduating. Right. And what happened at the graduation parties, that's big in the Midwest. The graduation parties, everyone gathers in the garage. Everyone has the buffet line, putting together tacos. Everyone has a beer and a keg. Yeah. Huge crowd at these things. I would convince the parents to let me give knife presentations in the garage at the graduation parties.
I love it.
And I remember the first one I did, and I just remember, it was like 7 orders, like 7 huge orders. And how long it would have taken me a long time to do that if I'm just dialing out of the phone book. So create a new game. You talked about filling the pipeline.
Yep.
How do you create your own game there? I like pickleball. You know this about me.
Which, by the way, is like trending, super hot right now. It's all the rage.
It's all the rage, and for good reason. It's just it's an addictive, fun sport. So
you're gonna have to take me to play too. By the way, I've never played. But it looks so fun.
I will. I'll absolutely. I'll get you out there.
Okay,
I'll get you out there. A few years ago started a pickleball league. I'm not a good golfer. I don't like golfing. That's not authentic to me. That's not a business development, you know. And I always think of business development as how you find more people to help. Like if you really believe in what you do, you know, your service, like you find more people to help. So it all that feels authentic to me too. But I thought I'm going to start a pickleball league, and I am going to I'm going to get people there. I am going to invite people that I want to get to know better and who would enjoy it just like I enjoy it. And we're all out there just like, you know, not thinking about business development. We're just thinking about getting to know each other and have a good time.
Yeah.
And
relationship building, long game stuff.
Yeah. And, you know, I could go to a Chamber of Commerce event. You could do these different things. That's somebody else's game. I've never enjoyed playing somebody else's game. That's just me.
Yeah, throw your own party.
Yeah, throw your own party. Do something that's really authentic to you. I mean, not that you have to always organize it. If I liked golf, I'm sure I would join a golf league and golf in somebody else's golf league. But, you know, trying to be creative, trying to think of something that no one else is doing, and take a leadership role in doing that and creating that game.
Like a podcast, you know, where you bring other badass entrepreneurs on and you just talk about business because it's the thing that fuels you, just entrepreneurship. You wake up going to sleep thinking about how to build and grow and scale and sell businesses. And like, what if somebody just made a podcast where they just sat down and got to like learn from like all the best entrepreneurs in their ecosystem? Like, how cool would that be?
It comes to some people is naturally as breathing.
Yeah.
And you're one of those people. You are.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
But yeah, this is a great example of that.
I love that. So you told me a story. You went to lunch a couple weeks ago and you were talking about how you got your whole family from Iowa to Fort Collins and how it actually played a pretty pivotal role in like kickstarting your real estate career.
Right.
Can you share that? That was a really cool story. I mean, you moms or aunts, uncles, cousins, like you were moving everybody out here from the Midwest.
Yeah, they're all here.
Yeah,
they're all here. So, you know, it started with me. My sister was going to vet school, and I came out to Fort Collins, and I fell in love immediately. I thought this is it. I mean, this is for me. So, and I was sold. I realized pretty quick I hadn't really thought about this, but I remember the door closing behind me in the apartment I rented, and thinking like, I don't know anybody here. So I took action. You know, I got into all these groups, but you know, concurrently with that, I wanted to get family members here. I wanted to talk to people, and so, you know, I honestly can't even remember the order now, but I can tell you that my parents live here. I can tell you that, you know, all of my cousins live here. Yeah. My brother, his wife, live just a few minutes away from me. Now, you know, we all have kids, and so I have a lot of nieces and nephews. And
right.
It's really, it was a huge. I mean, this happened over years because you know there's so many of us here now. This happened over years, and it was crucial, I would say, to my career taking off. My career almost died so many times in the beginning. From not having, you know, the funds to just feeling like I was a little hopeless to.
You haven't been on the entrepreneurial journey long enough until you've had that moment of feeling pretty hopeless.
Right.
It's definitely par for the course. We like overestimate how fast it's going to happen or how quickly we're going to achieve success, and a little bit of desperation between paying your bills and do I need to go get a job to make the ends meet? I mean, that's a real conversation that goes on.
Yeah. And then, you know, what if, you know, like what I was doing, I was working nights at Home Depot.
Yeah, that's right. And, oh man, you forgot about that part of the story.
I put a roommate in my house that I, you know, back when, you know, all you had to do to buy a house was, you know, if you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan. And that's what I didn't have any money, but I had a house. Yeah. I got a roommate in there. One time I had two roommates in there. I was working nights, and, you know, I was still really struggling. Yeah. You know, so, you know, all those, I think we talked at lunch a little bit. Some of those times where it's, you know, look, I don't have any sandwich meat in here. Funds are low. Got all the veggies for the sandwich. I don't have the turkey for the sandwich or the bread. Let's throw it all in the blender. Let's go.
The veggie
blend. And it was just like, I remember plugging my nose and just downing that. And that was dinner one night. It sounds dramatic. You could have, but funds were, when I say funds were low, funds were really, really low.
Yeah. Kind of thinking back to that, not that you would change anything, because a lot of that experience made you who you are today and taught you. But I guess what advice would you give to yourself during that time period that maybe you would have done things differently?
Sure. Yeah, I think look, knowing who the audience is here, and I know not everyone's in real estate, but if they're getting involved in an entrepreneurial venture, or if they're getting involved with something and it's sales, and you're starting here, and you want to go higher, I think really figuring out how can I add value to somebody who's already doing this at a level much higher than I am. That is what I would do differently, very specifically. And we talked about the mentor relationship. Well, that person who I was modeling after a bit didn't live in this market. I think you find somebody who's, where you want to be, doing what you want to do at a level higher, much higher than you're currently doing it. And you answer the question, how can I add value to this person? So you're starting, how can I add value? What do you need? And then you do it, and you need to get paid something. But
so like in your case, like maybe latch on to another top producer and be like, hey, can I sell real estate with you and learn from you and help you, and we can do deals together. And
and you probably have to be a little bit careful about how you're coming on, because you frame it that way to that person. They're gonna be like, look, I have enough to worry about right now. I don't need this
to babysit you.
I don't need to babysit you, and you're a walking liability.
Right.
So at the start, it probably looks a lot like, hey, I am, getting brochures for you and putting them in the brochure box. I'm setting up the lock box. Maybe I'm shoveling the walk at your listings after it snows. Very, very, baseline stuff.
Yeah.
In return for that, it's, hey, can I shadow you? Then you're making your way up to, hey, I've seen you show properties. I know how you do it. Can I go show properties for you? Can I take these buyers all around town? You go enjoy a Saturday with your family. I'll show these buyers around. Great. Yeah. And then you go from there. You up and up you go. If you do a good job, if you really show up.
Yeah, especially early days too. If it's a new industry or you're just kind of new to the game, you don't even really know what good or done looks like, and so you need to get some examples. Success leaves clues, right? I think the other thing I see too is people, they jump into stuff and they don't really have a clear vision for like, what the heck do I want this to look like? So they just start doing stuff, and they confuse a lot of motion with progress, and they never pick their head up enough to say, hey, is this still in line with where I'm going and what I want to do? And so they get caught in the trap of wasting a lot of time, and they feel like they're doing a ton of stuff, but they're really not going anywhere, right? It's like standing and spinning in a circle. You're sure moving, but you're not gaining any ground. So I think combined with what you just said, that's the helpful transition, is like, how do you latch onto somebody to get that direction and coaching that you need?
Yeah. And they're probably, there's a spectrum of how much you're latching onto somebody, because, another thing is goal setting. So maybe you're not in a position, in a profession where you can latch onto somebody like that, where that makes sense. Well, okay, at minimum, talk to somebody who is qualified, probably at the same company, higher up, is qualified to give you realistic goals, to give you best practices. You need a coach. You do. And someone who's qualified to be that coach. Somebody, and again, it's not, hey, we need to meet every day for 3 hours. No, it's, can I buy you lunch?
Right.
Can I ask you, 10 questions over lunch, and then maybe do that again the following month? Everyone has to eat lunch. Always be thinking about what's in it for them. If I can encourage anybody, anything, that's something I don't see enough of, particularly with maybe the younger generation right now.
Yep.
And I get it. I mean, they're coming out of, being around mom and dad. Everyone is not looking at you through that context. Like, they are not your mom and dad. You need to really, really be thinking about what's in it for them. Really understand that their time is probably a lot more valuable than yours when you're young and starting out.
100%.
And then, look, at different stages, it is still very relevant. What's in it for the other person? Like, there has to be something there. You're going to find people are helpful, but there needs to be win-win.
Yeah, I think that's especially important for younger entrepreneurs to find that mentorship. I think if you're a little bit older, maybe you've been working in a career for 7 to 10 years, you probably have those network of people around you who are entrepreneurs. So just leverage those friendships like we're doing right now, right? We're learning from each other. So I love that. Well, can we dive into your businesses a little bit more in detail?
I'm going to add one thing on that
go for
too.
it.
When we're older and we're doing that, like I think egos get in the way of people wanting to ask questions.
Yeah.
Egos get in the way of people wanting to utilize that network you mentioned. So I think it does become a big challenge as we get older to check the ego at the door and say, well, am I good at this? Am I good at that? Well, I'm not. Who is? Who can I ask questions to? Everyone, not everyone, but it seems like a lot of people want to act like they have it all figured out.
You're not wrong.
They want to be they want to be the guy. They're just look cool, act cool. Don't say anything. It you see this in real estate a lot.
Yeah.
Just they're not leaning in, opening up, asking the questions so that they can improve to get where they really want to go. And I think ego is the enemy.
There's a good book called Who Not How. Have you read that?
No.
Oh, so good. It's all about we're taught going through school that when we don't know something, we have to go figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, we just need to figure out who knows how to do it. And so if we lean into that more, like let's say you wanted to go run a Facebook campaign, you don't need to go learn how to do Facebook. You just need to figure out who knows how to run Facebook campaigns and then go talk to that person or hire that person. And you get 10 times further than trying to waste time not in your sweet spot doing something that doesn't really align with your God-given talent,
10 times further in a fraction of the time.
100%.
I'm an offender there. I need to learn in that category.
You should read that book, Who Not How. It's by Dan Sullivan.
Thank you. Yeah, I know Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Strategic Coach. He's got a ton of good books. Self-Managing Company, but Who Not How is killer.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about. So obviously you've been in real estate for a long time, and then you went on and you founded and helped start a company called Waypoint.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are doing commercial real estate and brokering, some residential, and then you've really grown into one of the largest commercial property management companies. You're doing luxury commercial real estate. You've actually kind of stepped out of the Waypoint business and really focused on building a luxury real estate platform. So I'd like to kind of navigate that. Like, how the heck did you get Waypoint started, and how did you guys go and grow that thing into how many square feet of commercial space you guys have?
I think Waypoint is now managing and providing maintenance services for approximately 5 million square feet.
Wow.
So
just in Northern Colorado?
Just in Northern Colorado. A little bit of that goes a little bit further south, and there's a little bit all the way up in Cheyenne. So, Front Range. So really, if you look at Waypoint's growth, you look at Waypoint's success, I mean, you have to, really look at Josh Guernsey. You have to look at Tom Hall, who's running property management. I've played a role, but Josh has really been the architect of that. And Tom has done an incredible job leading people, recruiting people, providing amazing customer service to those clients. So when I look at that company and I see where it started and where it is now, it's really those two guys. And then just the people, the hires that came on. I mean, I could go on and on about some of the hires. I mean, it's a really good example of if you get the right people on the bus, it's and they're in the right spots. It's amazing where it can go and how quickly it can get there.
Well, that's another example of who not how right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're all looking for a who to let them use their how in the organization.
Right.
So were you focused primarily on the brokerage side of that business and not necessarily the property management? And did you start out more as a brokerage and then kind of really evolve into property management, or was it simultaneous? What did that look like? Started
out as a brokerage. We knew we wanted to do property management at some point in time. And at that point, it was Josh and I and Jake Arnold is a broker, is a great commercial broker. Nick Norton was one of the early guys with us, great commercial broker. So
Nick.
Small team, and we had been, I think it was a year in roughly, the opportunity came along to acquire a property management company. That led to Tom Hall coming on board, and that's really where it took off. And in the beginning, I was doing everything from picking out furniture for the office to working with Josh, deciding what space are we going to lease. It was everything.
Yep.
Brokerage was paying the bills, so really hustling doing brokerage. And for a long time, and this goes all the way back to when I started, I was selling houses and commercial property. So the early days of Waypoint, doing a substantial amount of commercial property, but really still continuing to do a lot of residential property. And then that evolved through the years, and I really started solely focusing on residential properties, and really started that in 2019 and really tripled down on that in 2020.
Yeah. Why did you go that direction? Because I feel like everybody's always like, oh, you got to go to commercial. That's where they want to go.
Yeah.
Why residential?
Yeah, I think both are fun. Both have their pros and cons. I think what I've seen happen in this market with residential, and it's happening right now, and it's going to continue to happen, is just the average price point has just gone up at a much faster clip than ever before.
Yeah.
And the amenities this market offers, it draws a lot of just fun, exciting people who are doing fun, exciting projects and living in nice luxury houses, and it just becomes a very fascinating scene.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you don't live in northern Colorado or Colorado in general, it's too crowded and you shouldn't move here. Unless, of course, you need a good broker. Call Craig. But we don't have great hiking trails. We don't have great lakes. We're not close to the mountains at all.
We definitely don't have 300 days of sunshine.
We don't have 300 days of sunshine. You don't want anything to do with this market. It'd be terrible.
Town, Colorado State University in Laramie County, the University of Northern Colorado in Weld County. I mean, there's so many great things that draw people here, right?
Yeah.
And so I've had more fun doing residential. And then when luxury property, when higher end property became a thing in this market, which when I started, it wasn't a thing. When I was, it wasn't a thing, and it.
What was the median home price back then in northern Colorado? I mean,
in the twos.
Yeah, and now we're like in the sixes and the sevens, right?
Yeah, high sixes. So it's just evolved, and so that's exciting to me. Those deals are really fun, and there's not really a lot more to it than that. For me, over the years, I've invested with people at Waypoint and the number of commercial projects, and those are fun. I've never enjoyed commercial leasing. I think when people think of commercial real estate, they think, I'm going to do this big deal.
That takes 12 months to get over the line.
And in markets like ours, those deals are out there, but these commercial brokers, a lot of them that would, they just, they wouldn't be caught dead doing a residential deal, but you'll see them out there doing 17 commercial lease deals that are, and they need all 17 of them to equal one check that they would get if they would actually sell a house that is, in the luxury category. So the money is different now on the residential side for brokers than it has been in year past. For me, though, as I'm saying that, I think people that know me, it hasn't been about the money. There's lots of ways we can make money. It's been about the process. It's been about just
the game. You genuinely enjoy luxury real estate. Like when I talk to you about it. I
genuinely enjoy it. I generally enjoy touring the properties. I generally enjoy analyzing. I really enjoy the marketing and the digital marketing and the social media targeting. It's really exciting to me, and you get the joy of the people on the residential side, in my experience. A lot.
Commercial is a lot more math. One thing I know about northern Colorado commercial real estate, it's hard to be a specialist because there's just not enough inventory. Like to just be a multifamily guy in northern Colorado would be really tough because there's just not enough of those deals trading. So you got to know industrial, you got to know office, you got to know residential, you got to know development, you got to know land. If you're just doing leases, you're starving.
Right.
You got to be able to do leases. You got to know triple nets, grosses. So the game's just a little bit different. The learning curve's different. It's harder to specialize like what you've doing. So you recently made the transition over to a different platform, right? Yeah. Out of Waypoint, because they're really moving towards just really tripling down on the property management side, and you're really going luxury. So you joined the
Live Sotheby's. Yeah, Live Sotheby's International Realty.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
I'm on that platform now. Really, the number one luxury real estate platform.
Yeah, in the world. You go to Aspen, you go to all the major places. That's where you find Sotheby's, which is crazy that there's a strong Sotheby's brand growing in Fort Collins, Colorado, northern Colorado.
Right.
But here we are.
Yeah, here we are. I mean, that's where the market's evolved to, and we're just getting that brand going up here. There's a few other brokers with the brand up here as well. If you go down to that TPC course in Berthoud,
the thing's incredible.
It's an incredible place. You're going to find some Live Sotheby's agents there who are northern Colorado based. I'm in Fort Collins, and just looking forward to bringing the brand to more listings in Fort Collins. Yeah, off to a good start.
Yeah, I mean, I think your goal was to be the top luxury broker doing deals above $1 million in the next 3 years, right?
Yeah, I want to be the go-to agent for $1 million plus properties in northern Colorado.
What's that look like? Do you build a team behind you? Is it just you? Do you have a vision for that?
There's such an amazing team at Live Sotheby's. And I'm driving over here. I was on the phone with my transaction coordinator. She was putting the finishing touches on an offer for me. Right before that, I had a conversation with somebody who was completing a listing presentation for me. They're doing so much. I feels like there's an army of people in that platform that are supporting me, which is really great. So there is that. In terms of building a team in the future, my model is a little bit different. A lot of brokers, they want to do a bunch of deals. If you look at another top producing broker in our market, how I would be different from them in terms of how I would approach that is I want to do maybe half as many deals as they do, but I want my average price point to be double.
Yeah.
So really focus on the luxury category.
I love that. 2019, you tripled down on your luxury residential real estate. And then 2020 rolls around.
Yep.
So it's been an interesting, let's call it last 2 to 3 years. The market was crazy weird.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go for you? What were the struggles? How did you overcome that?
Right.
And then kind of carry that all the way forward for me today. Like what's happening in the market? And what are you thinking about for the future?
Yeah, 2020, it was just a lot of uncertainty. I remember there's one feeling that will never go away from me, like when I'm doing real estate brokerage, and that's the story about when I was really trying to get started being a real estate broker.
Yeah.
And I was at the end, and I like of my money, and I used like the last of it to print out all these brochures, basically saying I'll list your house for like almost for free. Just please call me.
That always works great.
Yeah, it works great. Yeah, awesome strategy, right? And it gets better. I'm going to put these flyers on every single home in the Harvest Park neighborhood in Southeast Fort Collins. If you live in Harvest Park, I'm sorry for the stuff I was putting in your door, but the plan was to start first thing in the morning, which I did. I'll be done by 2:00, but I didn't get started as early as I planned, and you have to eat. And next thing you know, I'm out there way longer than I thought. Wasn't disciplined, wasn't focused. It's 10:00 at night. I'm still out there putting these flyers on doors, and I scared one of the homeowners, who was an older lady, and really scared her. She had a storm door, and I thought, I'll get this brochure inside here. Well, I'm certain she thought someone was trying to break into her house, and it was kind of dramatic. And then but it led to a conversation that led to me listing her house. That led to me closing on that sale, the first place I sold, and I was so close to having, not having the opportunity to do it, and then having that closing. It's a feeling that I'll never take for granted. It will never leave me. I feel grateful. Yeah. And I thought in 2020, I started thinking about, that was the first thing I'll remember. They said they were canceling March Madness. That announcement came out all over the news. That's when it clicked for me how serious it was, and I could kind of see these things maybe happening. And I thought, is this going to get taken away from me? Am I once again at the end after all of this? And so it was really scary, and a lot of uncertainty but that only lasted a few weeks on the residential side. If everyone remembers, it then shifted right away to, well, I need to have like the best home office ever. I need to have the best house ever. I need to enjoy this space that I'm in all day, every day. People started valuing their homes, their spaces, their neighborhoods, who their neighbors are, all of these things. And a focus was on that like never before.
How did you get through that I'm interested the mental gymnastics that you kind of go through when things like that are outside of your control. Mm-hmm. I think that's important to kind of unpack that, because man, there's constantly going to be things shifting in the economy, things happening in the world. Like right now, there's all this talk around the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, Iran, China, South America. They're all coming together to form their own alliance, and the de-dollarization of the globe. And what does that mean? And like, it's so easy to get caught up in that stuff, So how did you navigate? How do you navigate that?
Focus on what you can control. I got that. I remember that lesson from a book forever ago. I think it was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Great book.
The circle of what
Is it Stephen Covey?
Stephen Covey. What can you influence? That's the only advice. Focus. So I just focused on what I could control, and there's no way around it. Hey, there's no hack that I'm aware of for not feeling the anxiety, not having a sleepless night, but the energy you have, if you can just direct it as much as possible to what you can control, doing the next right thing. I remember, okay, it really gave me a lot of comfort. I'm going to keep doing what I do. I'm going to keep putting the stats together. I'm going to keep sharing the stats. These little videos I do online. I'm going to,
they're great, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep having lunch with people. I'm going to stay in touch. I'm going to try to be a great resource. I'm going to try to be helpful. How can I be helpful? How can I be helpful? That was the number one question that always, I think, was going through my mind more than anything else.
Yeah. What's the saying? It's never a matter of resources. This is always a matter of resourcefulness. And when we get scared, we tend to start to look internally. And the quickest way to take that away is to start look externally. Mm-hmm. How do I add value? How do I do different? Because if you're feeling that, everybody's feeling that. So those are actually my favorite times. When the market gets scared and people get scared in the economy, you got to have the wherewithal to triple down and say, I'm going to go harder. I'm going to make more phone calls. I'm going to do more events. I'm going to spend more money on marketing. I'm going to separate myself from everybody else because everybody else is taking their foot off the gas. Mm-hmm. And you can only do that if you're thinking about how you're going to add value to the other person.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. And I think also there's some peace, at least from my perspective, in knowing that if you do that, if you go all out, if you go harder, then look, whatever happens, happens. What you don't want to happen is to, peter out. You want, fizzle out. And then have it in the back of your mind. Well, I could have done more.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I could have done more. That would be the worst. So I think that is the other reason for doing all of those things. If it's completely out of your control, doesn't go the way you want it to go, then at least you did everything you could do.
100%. What are you most excited about right now? I think I could probably make some assumptions, but I'd love to hear it out of your own mouth.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think I'm most excited about just the future of the luxury residential category in Northern Colorado. And specifically, if you just look at, some of the cool homes, the new developments that are in the works right now, if you start looking at the renovation projects that are happening, there's just so much money and creativity being put into homes, and excited about that, excited about really continuing to build on, I think, what I'm doing to differentiate from a marketing standpoint, not just with the Live Sotheby's platform, but additionally some things on the digital side and the digital marketing, targeting, social media posts and things like that.
We've been contemplating starting, we'll call it a think tank or a mastermind or like an executive peer advisory for people like you who have a more sales driven business, because the way that we're doing sales has changed drastically, and people are way behind the curve on the amount of content that they're creating, how they're thinking about creating content, how they're leveraging these platforms in order to build a brand. And in your case, luxury real estate, there's lots of people wanting to move here. So how do you maximize that, right? And so if we started something, this is how entrepreneurial ideas are born, guys. But we've been thinking about, if we started something that was like a paid mastermind where you came together with other like-minded people who are all building their business, who really wanted to learn how to leverage this idea that marketing is sales and sales is marketing, I would venture to say that we're probably one of the best at it. We do a lot of content, and the way that we're building our sales team, candidly, if we get to the 100 broker mark that we're shooting for by the end of this year, we'll be doing 100,000 pieces of content a year. 100,000 pieces as a team. Wow. How do you do that, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to teach people how to do that, because it's very easy, and everything that you already know how to do, we can teach you how to do it too.
I'm in. Just
in a more effective way. Okay, different question for you. Market research, guys.
I'm in though, seriously.
Okay, what would you pay for something like that? What would that be worth to you? Think about it like monthly membership. We're coming together once a month. We're spending 4 or 5 hours really tripling down on content, strategy, your strategy, breaking it down. What are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? How do you fix it? How do you make it better? How do you expand it? How do you scale it?
Yeah, good question. I don't know if that's that $500 a month. Is it $1,000 a month? I mean, it probably good question. Something in that range.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
It's good.
I mean, I think it's really valuable
because I think you have a tremendous opportunity. It's people say they're passionate about real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I hear it all the time. Oh yeah, I love real estate. But like when I hear you talk about luxury real estate, I start building this brand in my mind of how you can do it and how you can articulate it, and how you can share it with the market. And I want to teach you how to do that. Because you already have all the intangible qualities. I can't teach you how to be passionate about it.
Right.
I can just teach you how to scale what you're doing and make it more effective.
I can't wait.
Let's go.
I'm in. Let's go.
Okay, I love it.
Because there's so many things I want to communicate. You know, this morning I was, it blew this guy's mind. I'm like, yeah, look, hey, I'm going to show you some analytics. So you can back into the, realtor.com website, 7 clicks in. It's like, look, for properties like yours in Fort Collins, over 65% of the clicks are coming from the Denver area. So where do you think we should market? The Denver. So really being able to educate the public on all the things I do differently strategically and do that at scale, you having your systems, your strategies to do that are very valuable to me. I think that's extremely exciting.
Yeah, if you really are serious about being the number one luxury commercial or luxury broker in Northern Colorado,
yeah,
we can help you get there.
I'm in.
Let's go. All right. Okay, so we'll land the plane on this, man. Couple more questions. If you weren't doing real estate, what would you do? Or would you be doing anything else? The answer could be no.
I think I would be in law enforcement.
Really?
Or teaching. One of those two.
Why those two?
Law enforcement, I've just always had a lot of respect for people doing that. I think there's just a lot of dedication. I think they're undercompensated.
Yeah.
And so it is really incredibly impressive to see these amazing individuals putting their lives at risks, also sacrificing their time, right? Sacrificing, a normal 9-to-5 job. There's weird hours. I mean, all of those things, and just serving and protecting is just really, really honorable. So that teaching, being able to kind of pour into kids. We moved a lot when I was growing up, and it was, hindsight, I really understand why. It was opportunities for, my dad at different hospitals, and he was an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, and recruited here and there and everywhere. We moved, 8-9 times, I think, total from when I was born to when I made it to high school. And so with that, there was a lot of sitting at the lunch table by myself, play the small violin. But
yeah.
it was interesting. Just I think back to those being kind of tough times. You're in middle school and around that age group. And so I think being able to be a mentor to kids, just being able to kind of watch out for maybe bullying, being able just to set an example would be rewarding.
Dude, that's my favorite part of this whole podcast, because it tells me a lot about why you love residential real estate, number one, and why you love to help people so much.
Yeah, I didn't think about it in that context. But
right, like you moved around. Home's a super important place. Home is obviously where your family is, but I mean, it's an incredibly important thing. And then you genuinely just love to help people, and you love talking about real estate.
I do.
And so those are two qualities that you actually need in a real estate broker. Not somebody who's just thinking about like, "Ooh, man, can you imagine the commission check I'm going to get on this?"
Yeah. It's, I don't even think about that like in day to day at all. It just that happens.
It's just a result.
It's a result. It is, but helping people, but tangibly too, right? I mean, there was a situation, a deal just last week where it's a house in Old Town, and we got an offer. We did a really good job marketing it. We had multiple offers, so we got it. A few parties are willing to pay higher than ask, and we were able to get one of the parties to come up further, and we just ended up being like $20,000 above what the sellers thought the very, very best scenario ever would be.
Right.
And that is rewarding.
Yeah.
They had a baby recently, and that is incredibly rewarding. So doing that it's a great feeling. Whether it's that or whether it's just somebody who is, selling a house and downsizing, maybe they're older, getting into a different stage. I want to go into a maintenance-free patio home. All of those things of helping people it really is rewarding.
Do you have to be aging to get to downsize? Because when I was shoveling snow the other day, I was literally thinking about how I just wanted to be in a maintenance-free home. So
I'm seeing it more and more. I helped that Cortina unit that sold recently with somebody that just wanted to, have maintenance-free living and travel and
I love it.
turnkey. Yeah, so you don't have to be old.
I'm just
older.
joking.
No.
Okay, so is there a book that you've read or a resource maybe that you listen to regularly that you think every entrepreneur should spend some time on?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Fire.
Number one, Essentialism, Greg McKeown.
I have not read that book. What's it about?
So it's about focusing on what matters, doing less but better. The concept of doing less but better.
So good.
And identifying what those things are and going all in on them. There's a lot of talk about the Pareto principle, 80-20. People conceptually understand these things, but he brings such a practical, easy to follow approach that it's life-changing. And I just highly recommend it. I read this book, and then when I was done, I read it again. I've never done that before. And then when I was done the second time, I read it again. Wow. I read it 3 times in a row. So that book has never had that effect on me. It's incredible. So I recommend that one.
I read a lot. It's rare for somebody to mention a book that I haven't read. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Essentialism, Greg McKeown.
Yep. Essentialism.
Yeah, that's good. What's your other one?
I'll give you one that's audio. You got to listen to this one. I think Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights. I think that's a great one. Just his story, his approach to life. I think it will surprise a lot of people, especially if you are thinking of getting into entrepreneurship, if you're thinking about, following your heart, doing something. It is a story you need to hear.
I've heard that.
And you couldn't have someone telling the story any better either.
Yeah. Because he's actually reading the book.
He's reading the book.
Yeah, that Matthew McConaughey voice gets you every time.
It gets you
Philosopher
every time.
McConaughey.
But he really, there's lessons in there that will surprise people. Real quick one, he decided it early-ish in his career, I don't want to be the rom-com guy. Those were coming every week. Those jobs were coming he didn't want to be the rom-com guy. He wanted to be in dramas. He wanted to do things that, really he could kind of flex his talent. He knew he was, cut out to do more. And so he just started turning down the rom-com deals. He was getting offers at 8, 10, 12 million, turning this down. And it felt risky at the time because we all know what can happen in Hollywood. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, he stuck with it almost 2 years. He didn't have a job. I don't think any of us, noticed in the world, but he didn't have an acting job for almost 2 years. Finally broke through. He stuck to it. He got that drama. He was in a movie called Mud. Then, shortly after that, he did Dallas Buyers Club. The rest is history. He was doing
vision, man. He's got vision.
Well, he knew what he wanted to do. He talked about clarity early in this conversation. He talked about really knowing what you want, instead of just going and doing. And, he could have just kept doing rom-coms. He could have just kept stacking money on top of money and, going through the motions. He didn't want to do that. I think there's a lot of people out there that might be able to relate to that. Are you just going through the motions? How much joy are you really getting out of the granite countertops and the huge kitchen that you can afford because you're going to this job every day?
That you hate.
That you hate.
Yeah.
Or maybe you don't hate it. Maybe you're in that place where you don't hate it, but you don't love it. You're sort of in the middle.
Yeah.
That's maybe even a worse place to be.
Yeah, just complacent.
Just sort of, just walking through the day-to-day numb instead of being lit up. Like you're lit up every day.
I'm lit up. You're lit up every day.
Every day.
Yeah, it's better to be hot or cold, but don't be lukewarm.
Yeah. And I think people might see somebody like you and say, well, that's just who he is. I'm not that guy. They might not realize, no, you found what you were supposed to do. You found what you were put here to do, and they can too.
Yes, absolutely.
They can too. They just need to take that first step and then take that next step and then take that next step. They just need to go. Get a mentor, get a coach, talk to people, check your ego at the door, all these things.
Let's go.
Read, I
was going to ask you what inspiration you have for entrepreneurs who want to take the entrepreneurial leap, but I think you just hit it. Nail on the head, man. The gap between where you're at versus the vision for the future is where passion exists.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you hit it on nail on the head. Well, if people want to get a hold of you, they connected with your story. What are the best social platforms for them to follow you on, connect with you, send you a message? Maybe they want to buy some luxury real estate in Northern Colorado.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm on Instagram. Just look at my name, Greg.
Roeder.
Yep, Roeder.
Spelled.
Last name is spelled Roeder, spelled like Roeder, pronounced Raider. But yeah, you'll see me on my name, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the social channels. If they want to learn more about me and the homes I sell, you can look me up on Liv Sotheby's site. You can check out reviews on Zillow. You search my name on there.
We'll put all that stuff in the show notes so everybody can connect with you. But I'm excited. I'm excited to help you on your content journey as well. And then I'm excited to bring you back and tell the second part of the story about how you're the most dominant, best, number one luxury real estate agent in Colorado. Let's go Colorado.
Yeah, I need to figure out who keeps that stat, because I have to be up there from a number standpoint now. But I think and this is relating to our conversation, really defining that. Like what does that mean? What is the go-to agent for $1 million plus properties in Northern Colorado? Yeah, probably just defining that better.
Defining your avatar, getting clear about who they are, where they hang out, what they care about, what keeps them up at night.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
I'm excited to get your help with just amplifying that and clarifying that. But thank you, I appreciate this. This is fun.
You bet, man. Thanks for being here. Until next time.
All right,
see you, bro.
See ya.